And what would you say about the criminal justice system? Do you think that I mean, I've been involved in the criminal justice system for a very long time, as you know, as a former detective, and now obviously poacher turned gamekeeper on the other side. And very often I work with people who are challenging the positions of the police. And I'll take it on board. You know, if the police have got it wrong, then they have to stand up and say it, because the impact on people's lives when the police get it wrong is massive. What do you think the current state of the criminal justice system is at?
I feel that the UK's justice system is amongst one of the best in the whole world. The reason I say that is everyone is entitled to a fair trial. If somebody is arrested, a lot of people have this misconception, or they think that when somebody is arrested, they're automatically guilty of something. There are people out there that get arrested for the wrong reasons. There are people out there that I know have walked into conspiracies without even realizing. So you must give everyone a fair chance to have a trial, and that's the UK justice system. And we are tried, not we, defendants are tried by a jury, and that jury panel is selected at random. And these are upstanding members of the community with no previous convictions. So they are judging you. They are making.
I mean, the principles are there. You're absolutely right. The principles are there. You know, innocent until proven guilty. You know, we have, as you say, I firmly believe, and I've travelled around the whole of the world working with different police forces, and we have, you know, one of the best police forces, no doubt about it at all. But the problem is, and going back to the point that you just made, is that the perception of so many is once you are charged, you're guilty, and in fact, even to a degree that perhaps even once you're arrested, you're guilty. That's the public perception that's kind of like now become, you know, a kind of a bit of a norm. But the reality is that if you are charged, you have to put up a defense, and you have to fight for your innocence, because the reality is it's a pretty risky business to be in otherwise, isn't it?
Of course, we have to fight for your innocence, and I can't even imagine what a daunting experience it'd be for someone who's going through the trial procedure, who's having to sit through a 2 month trial, for example, for a serious offense like murder. And they're having to sit through that trial with the prosecutor saying all sorts of stuff about them. And they know they are looking at life imprisonment. When they get found not guilty, imagine the feeling that's going through them. And also the feeling that must be going through them whilst they're having that trial, and people are telling them that they're never going to see daylight again. Imagine that. I've experienced that a number of times with clients.
And in terms of one of the areas I know you've done a bit of work around is police corruption and the issues that exist within the police service. Have you focused on any particular cases?
I'm involved in a case right now. I can't get into too much detail because it's ongoing, you see, but it involves a senior police officer, and he is right now explaining how he was treated by the police force.
Right.
And he's
going internally, so like whistleblowing type of scenario.
No, he's been charged with a criminal offense.
He's been charged, right?
He's been charged with counselling and procuring. So now he's letting his version out as well.
Okay, so he's turned, as it were, and he's now letting it go in terms of what's happened to him.
Of course, yeah. So,
and how's that likely to play out? Is he got a lot of things that are quite interesting to say?
Of course, there are. Is mentioned the racism that goes on. He's a man of color. He's mentioned how some of his colleagues have been racist towards him. He's also mentioned how he used to be looked down upon by some senior officers, even though he was a senior officer himself. Even his weight, he used to be discriminated against. So all of that stuff is just coming out. So you get to see a different world. The public normally don't get to see stuff like that.
One of the questions that's come in from Julie, which is, what do you think goes wrong, and how do you feel about the CCRC and how they work? So, I mean, the CCRC. So let's just explain. The CCRC is a Criminal Case Review Commission. They have set up. There's an awful lot of ex-police officers on there, but they are set up in essence to look at cases where there's a consideration where perhaps miscarriage of justice exists, and they have quite far-reaching powers to get hold of documentation, get hold of evidence, and ultimately they can refer a matter back to the Court of Appeal. So, sorry, just give that little explanation to people that are watching. Have you had much dealings with the CCRC?
I have on a number of occasions, and although they are very helpful, but let's be honest, I'll be honest, once you have had your trial and been convicted, even if there are grounds for appeal, just say for argument's sake, and we've managed to get up to the Court of Appeal, usually appeals don't go past a single judge. It's very difficult because, as you know, it's peers, other judges saying other judges made a mistake, and they don't tend to do that. And judges, when directing juries, they are very careful because they don't want to get appealed. So I'm just saying, if a appeal does manage to get past the single judge and gets to the Court of Appeal and it fails, I think there's a very low chance of success at
you
CCRC.
you speak a lot of sense. It's a bit like talking to myself, listening to you. I mean, you do talk a lot of sense, and I think one of the things that's so true is the criminal justice system. We do have the best, but the whole judge process at the moment still worries me massively, and has worried me for a long time because, judges, as you say, they're not going to criticize their colleagues, and by and large, they all know each other. They come from the same education setup, which primarily is private school. There's a few that haven't come through the private school system more recently, but overwhelmingly they are private school, university educated, and that prevents them. Yeah, that's right, and it prevents them. But I also have the problem with pathologists. So one of the recent I do a lot of reviews in relation to murders, and one of my concerns is pathologists not prepared to criticize other pathologists, and that is a big problem when one expert, particularly in the pathology world, isn't prepared to challenge another pathology expert.
Exactly, and that again, I don't know what's their agenda for exactly not challenging the pathologists, because murder cases, when people are facing life imprisonment, it's very easy to be convicted, but once convicted, like I said, you only have one bite at the cherry, and it's very difficult to appeal. I'll try appealing some cases, and it's very difficult. So yeah, I've come across that too, to be fair, same thing.